Whitesinger. And I'll let him introduce himself, and then he can go ahead and get started. So welcome, and thank you, Manny, for helping us out. So let me give the time over to Don Whitesinger.
That's how we talk when we have our masks on. You can't really understand a lot of things we say. She had Twitter cheating in Slim. Don't go by Basistina. Don't not cutting it. That's a che. Don't tweet cleaning. That's another. My family is originally from Chinle. My my father is from down the valley, by Valley Store in Chinle, and the Tuatlinis, Tupans, and my mom is from Spider Rock, Tennessee, and all the Twitch Eatnies and Night Cudness, as far as being from Spider Rock area. And I happened to claim land over in Spider Rock, as far as built me I have a home site lease. And I recommend you people who are enrolled members of the Navajo Nation to apply for a home site lease. Especially, it's getting to the point where, as we, I mean, the other day I went on somebody's land. I just happened to, go there, and they said, "What are you doing here? This is private land." And I mentioned that that is not private. This Navajo Nation is not. There's no private land set up. It's all entrusted to the government. And they really got huffy with me and got upset. But anyway, I recommend that that you do apply for some land. As far as when your grandma says, "Build over there," take that to heart and start building, because you can't get it in writing from her, and that's how things seem to be. And I am an artist. I happen to teach. I'm teaching here at Diné College. I've been here a good 20 years teaching. I had gone to the Institute of American Indian Arts. I was there back in the early 70s, but that that was a whole nother issue as far as being there in the 70s. And then I had gone back again in the 80s, and I finished up with my Associate of Art degree. And and I finished there with 2D art and painting and photography from the Institute of American Indian Arts in Santa Fe. And from there, I went on to ASU, the Arizona State University, and I got involved in studio art. A lot of printmaking, drawing, painting, all facets of art. And I finished there. And when I had finished there at ASU, then I was married. I was married to the Apache, White Mountain Apache Reservation. I was married to an Apache lady from Sibique area. And I have 2 kids from that area, daughter and a son. And when I was there, I used to substitute teach on Fridays, and I would see some of the things that they would give some of the kids to do, kids from the res, the dominant race were mainly with, back then, there was hardly any Native instructors. And so I saw what they were doing as far as the, color within the lines kind of thing, as far as art projects. And I didn't like that. The only thing, I couldn't do anything about it because I only have my bachelor's. So I decided to go back and get my master's. And I went to Rhode Island School of Design. back east. And I, I finished out there, a master's in art teaching. And there's a piece of artwork back here. That's Freedom to Lead. And the guy who had done that, he went to the Rhode Island School of Design, Shepard Ferry. And he does a lot of public art, a lot of street art. And so I finished there, and I was teaching. I was certified in K through 12 in the state of Arizona. So I taught art in White River on the White Mountain Apache Reservation. And then I left there and I went to Holbrook, and I taught there for a while. In Holbrook, teaching K through 12. And I got certified in the state of Arizona. And then when I was there probably for about 10 years teaching K through 12. But I was teaching high school and junior high, more or less, but I was certified. And I was doing that, and during the times when I was teaching, I was doing a lot of my own art. And I would do a lot of things, and a lot of different things, printmaking, a lot of silk screen, stuff like that. And I also decided to move back. And I moved back to Chinle, to Spider Rock area. And they call this place where I was at, like garden in the woods, kind of like. And I started calling it Niitles, kind of like into the pavement, because that's where I was at, near that into the pavement area. And I started building. I started cutting logs. Well, I went to forestry and asked them to mark trees, and I cut logs, and then people started coming over to me and saying, this isn't your land. And so I had to go through the process of getting the home site lease. And when I went through the process of getting the home site lease, I started throwing logs down and started building me a studio. And I would go into Chinle to check on my mail, get water, food, all the necessities that I need, and I would go back to Spider Rock area. And one day, I went to art school with this guy named Paul Valero, Dr. Valero, and he decided, or he was building a program here for Diné College then. And he told me that once you apply for this position, you have your master's, come over and help us. And so I got into this altruism thing where you give something back to society and whatnot. And so that's what I had done. So I applied for the position and went through the interview, the process, and I got hired. So again, I've been here a good 20 years. And I am an artist. I just happen to have the credentials to teach, mainly because I knew that the art market is always there. It's always there. Right now, it's the jewelry that are really selling. People are buying. There's a new age group, I guess. That before they had the yuppies, and they had the Silicon Valley and whatnot. And a lot of these people started working with these things, these smart machines, I guess they would say. And so they didn't really invest in art to hang up wherever they may be. So people started investing more in programs and gadgets and smart machines per se. these smartphones that we all have. So that kind of set the tone for me to be here, and because I'm from the old school where I have to have face-to-face setup with my students, and this online teaching is a lot different, and I'm slowly getting the hang of it, getting used to it, and doing this. And it's really hard because you don't really know if this particular student is really doing the artwork that they submit and stuff. And so the artwork that's submitted at the beginning of the semester is really good, most of the students. And toward the end of the midterm, the artwork starts to go down. Meaning that what I've seen to grasp is that someone else is doing the artwork, and maybe they're having a spat about something, and so they decide not to do the work for the other person or something. Anyway, you can see that gradual change, and I'm thinking, this isn't what I thought teaching art would come to. And so I, in my own way, I've kind of decided to, excuse me, to get out of teaching, to start to think in terms of retiring and do my own work. Like I said, I am an artist. There's a lot of things that that comes with being an artist. Like, for example, taboos on the reservation, Navajo Nation, as compared to Western concepts. Western concepts, whereas in order to get ahead, you get married, you have a job, you go to school, you get married, you get a job, and then you retire, kind of thing. And whereas in the here on the res, it's a lot different, because in a way, people say that we don't pay taxes, but we do. As far as taxes, in the sense, as far as to keep the economy going. And we just don't, the land itself is just entrusted to the US government. When you think of it, everything that was done in the state, the 48 states, everything that was done, all the building and stuff, someone had said, why am I designing something on stolen land? And you think of it sometimes, and you get this notion of user-friendly. What is user-friendly? You have these designers, people who go to art school, who design things. And and one of the things I always talk about is user-friendly. And say like a toaster. When you think in terms of using a toaster to eat, to toast your toast, I guess, your bread or whatever. And and it's kind of like a instant gratification, in a sense that it's user-friendly. And then within that same toast that's designed, the toaster, when you push another button, it toasts your bagels. And and some of you, especially students, we have our bagels in the morning, and with whatever we put with it. And it has to be set just right in order to toast it, that type of thing, user-friendly. And and a lot of this stuff that's set up that way. You know, it's kind of interesting because we didn't think about the last 24 hours. You know, chances are you had several moments of continuous connection, connection to with information, the internet, you know, whatever we decide to do. We no longer see people reading newspapers. You know, everybody's reading that on on the internet. You know, the apps, service device, and other things, as far as this having access to all this information and this, you know, these smart machines get smarter. You know, you think of a Xerox machine, all these buttons you push and certain things will pop out. You know, things like that. You think about as far as our lives have this. We have this instant gratification. You know, me being here at Say Lee, I have that. You know, I'm able to turn on the lights or turn on whatever that I need because of electricity. But in Spider Rock, I don't have that. I don't have running water. I don't have electricity. I got involved with this Navajo light up Navajo number 3. I got involved with that. Hopefully they'll hook up my my Hogan over there in Spider Rock. And I'll have instant gratification. And creativity. You know, when you think in terms of this whole notion of being creative, what is creativity? You know, they say the definition of it can be intellectual inventiveness. Intellectual inventiveness, you know, and it's kind of like imagination, something that's not really there yet. You imagine it being there. And that's kind of what art is to a certain point, because you have to think in terms of, you look at something blank canvas, and then you need to put something on it, on that canvas in order for it to be data in the sense that people can critique it, whether it's constructive criticism or whether it's blasé about the work itself. So all these things come into factor, you know. And this whole notion of back in the days when they had that, what is it, American Indian Movement, and then we had Idle No More, and then we had that that pipeline in South Dakota, oil pipeline. When you think of all these things that were happening, art always become a vital force. And producing posters or artwork having to do with that, a social setting, you know. The other day, we were talking about disruption and changes. As far as you know, when you look at what's going on with Ukraine, you know, the war, how it's really changing, making changes over there, disruptive. And you think in terms of art, in a sense, it's art is a strong feeling that you get sometimes, and that you want to produce art in general. You know, they talk about contemporary Native American art. What is contemporary Native American art? Contemporary is issues now. this day, living today. Native American is indigenous people of America. And there's some of us who don't even have a CIB through the Bureau of Indian Affairs, a certificate of Indian blood, mainly because they may be a full blood, but on the records, they say they're half. You know, and to me, you know, they talk about this notion of Jah, the father. You know, they say a person has to man up and accept things that he's done and accept the notion that he's got to be responsible for the things, actions that he does. And one of them is, you know, you're wondering, why am I talking about this? It has to do with the CIB. You know, when you think in terms of when you go to the hospital and you give birth, they assume that the father would be there and they would sign the document stating that, yes, he's the father. But what happens is he's not around. He's either doing other things or whatever. And so he doesn't get signed. So, and during that time, the records indicate that the baby, the newborn is half until they figure out who the father is and whatnot. So, so in that sense, you know, what, you know, the CIB thing was a big issue back in the 80s, you know, as compared to the American movement in the 70s and 80s, and then you got the Idle No More. And as an artist, you really become sensitive to a lot of these issues. And and at certain times, it does tend to it tends to hinder us, hinder things that we want to do in life. And adaptability and resilient, that is who we are as Diné people. That which is tradition has been borrowed from other cultures in the dominant society. Dominant society meaning Anglo race, but when you think of it now, the indigenous people are dominant race. And art being no exception, this resiliency and the ability to adapt, it reflects in the art of the students. You know, this adaptation is prevalent in the content text of their work. You know, when you think in terms of anime, emo, all these, you know, non-representational art, abstraction, anime animation, Gothic art, street art, public art. These take away from the traditional type of artwork as compared to the non-traditional. And so, in a sense, they say language, culture, and the land base. And the arts are part of all that three things that I mentioned. And language, oral tradition, you know, which comes from our heart, things that we say or how we say it and whatnot. And that whole notion of abstract thinking, abstract art in itself, art, abstract art, art that does not attempt to represent eternal reality, but seeks to achieve its effect using shape, form, color, and texture. That's abstract art. And I talked, and I mentioned the contemporary native art. And abstract art is what it seems like that's what we're going toward. You know, with a lot of things that we do because of the stages that a lot of us are, that we encounter, I guess. And some of us take a long time to bypass that. And then abstract art, when you think of it, when you look at the basket itself, the wedding basket, there are designs within that wedding basket. And that those designs is abstract in a way that it just shapes, color, texture. And so that when you use the basket, the design within the basket, the clouds and whatnot, it becomes, it's called utilitarian art. It's utilized for something, utilitarian. And that's back then in the 30s, 1930s, they categorized it as primitive art. And but yet they said it was abstract art too. Primitive abstract. And utilitarian art, rug weaving. When you look at rugs now, I mean, some of them are really finely woven. They're really fine. And and there, some of them are natural dye as compared to store-bought dye, trading post. And now that a lot of the work is gearing toward abstract scenes, you know, the rug weaving. A lot of the rug weaving that I've seen or that I've studied, you know, when you think of back in the 30s and the 20s, even before then, the chief blanket, how how they utilize that design on a chief's blanket. And then, from what I understand, a lot of people used to order from Sears Roebuck catalogs and Montgomery Ward or whatever that catalog, and they would look at some of the designs in there, and they would see these Persian rugs in there, and they would utilize those designs to their benefit. That's a true artist, you know? But people didn't recognize that them as artists because they were part of the group, part of the society, I guess, within the group, with the Navajo people. And so when you think in terms of things that are utilized for certain reasons, you know, like rug making, basket making, pottery, sometimes jewelry. And excuse me, those were utilized for certain things. And they were utilitarian art. And at the same time, they had a show in New York City, the Armory show. I think it was back in the 30s. And they had some rugs in that show. And it was, you know, that was after Jackson Pollock. Jackson Pollock, he went on to do abstract expressionism. And abstract expressionism is just what it is, expressing yourself in an abstract way. And he studied, or he worked in Grand Canyon, Jackson Pollock. And he saw these medicine men working on sand painting, kneeling down, doing sand painting on their knees. And so, so akin to what the Navajo people were doing, he decided he wanted to do splatter paint on canvas by dripping it. So he stood up and leaned over doing that with paint. And, and he picked it up from watching these people doing the sand painting. But there's a book that he has, an interview that he had done. And I think it's out of print, but he mentioned something about that one time, but after that, they never gave Native people credit for a lot of things, how people do things, you know. So I kind of wanted to mention that, you know, you talk about Native healing art, you know, what is that? What is healing art? You know, they talk about how there's chants, chants where they have ceremonies, and they have these sand paintings, and these sand paintings were part of the healing process. And then at the same time, as an artist, when we do something, when we feel comfortable doing it, and we like what we do, that heals us. And then when people see our work, whatever we're doing, they get they get positive response from it. You know, like myself, I don't do art for negative things. My work, the things that I do, I enjoy doing them because it helps me. Because when you're in harmony with your surroundings, it's really helpful to live a prosperous life. And you know, I happen to have these credentials to teach, in which I'm doing, and at the same time doing my own work, which is good. And so in that sense, Native American art is here. You know, they don't recognize it as a mainstream art. Mainstream in a sense that it's competitive with people out there. And we have a lot of people who are really superb artists who have studied overseas, you know, and came back and they're making a living off of it. And what is art, you know? What really is art? You know, is it content? Content in the matter that it's a subject matter? Is it aesthetics? Aesthetics in the sense that you see something that you like and your five senses kick in and you respond to your five senses, which are seeing, looking, hearing, touching, and tasting. When you respond, when those five senses respond, to things that you do, that's an aesthetic experience. And again, is it a healing process when you think of it? Is it being creative? What is art? Or is it using your imagination? That intellectual inventiveness, is it using that? Or is it a complex problem? And what is a design? You know, when you think of a design, some kind of composition that has the creative process. Creative processes, which is your thinking, looking, and doing. And it doesn't necessarily stay in that order. You can do it, think about it, and look at it. You can do it, look at it, and think about it. It's just that thinking, looking, and doing, that creative process. And so, do we use that? And a lot of the things that I do, you know, I use that. And when you think of it, they say there's no word that exists with Native American people that there's no word for art, because it's all utilitarian. It's utilized for something. So when you think in terms of art, you know, like Nash Chan, they say, oh, Nash Chan, you know, kind of thing. And then you're saying, and grandma's over here throwing things in a pot, you know, cutting carrots, potatoes, meat, whatever. She says, you know, and you're thinking, she's using that as a canvas, she's painting, she has a brush in there. But no, it's being creative, having that creative mind. That's what that is. You know, when these things that are happening now, that with the pandemic, you know, a lot of ceremonies were canceled. But I just noticed last weekend that they're starting back up on certain ceremonies like Canasta. And certain things are happening. But the pandemic is still here. And at the same time, you know, how does that really affect us, this pandemic? You know, when you think in terms of resiliency as people as far as native or indigenous people. You know, you think in terms of, often believe that there are social rules for art that they should follow and guard. These rules, social rules in art include rules of content, your subject matter, context, what is it? What is the meaning of your subject? Form, the elements and principles of art. And personnel, are you attached to your work? That art should be a community oriented, that art is the expression of the sacred, and that art is useful, beautiful, and functional. For many Native culture, beauty is the results of functionality. Art is beautiful because it works at some functional level. The artist is not above or separated from society, no different eccentric of professionalism. There is a little social pressure toward innovative for its own sake. Art is understood in the context of religion, communal, and personal narrative, and through it, its utilitarian functions. So when you think of art, as far as me, who I am as an artist, as a person, I have to think in terms of the content, the subject matter, the context, who is it going to affect, and will it affect us mentally or physically, that type of thing. As we get more assimilated into Western society and the economic system, we tend to do more of our own work. And this pandemic has helped us in the sense of being away from everybody in general, as far as, excuse me, as far as solitude. You know, solitude leads to creativity. You know, when we're alone, when we're thinking about things and stuff, and there's always work to be done. When I think when solitude comes, when solitude comes, a lot of creativity comes with it. So when you have silence around you, solitude, then you're free. Then you free something within yourself, so you can be creative and curious about other things. Discover new interests, create a routine, and reward yourself with small pleasures. Eat well, stay active, and connecting if you're feeling healthy. It makes you feel happy. Again, creativity is leadership. And we need a lot of leaders who are creative in the things that we do. You know, when you think of it, the artist is always the one to volunteer a lot of times about getting things done as far as leading. Again, the purpose of stress is to warn us when we are headed toward psychological danger. Happiness is a state of mind, not a set of circumstances. You can never find happiness by searching. I mean, you got to be happy within yourself. And as an artist, we tend to look at that. But then we have, I mean, there's things that we've done in our lives that has to do with that we're not proud of. And me being at the early age, being in Santa Fe during the times of the Wounded Knee incident, and then also Trail of Broken Treaties, and all those things, you know, you get involved with whatever's happening during the time, and substance abuse will always be around, and it hinders us as Native people, and especially as artists. I have a PowerPoint presentation that I kind of wanted to share with you as far as who I am as an artist and how it really helps me when I do art. So I'll go ahead and see if I can get it going here.
Don, you probably need like towards the end some time for questions. Like
Okay.
Yeah, about 6:30.
Okay, so I'll go through
Okay.
this.
All right.
You got it? Oh. Okay, this is my first slide. Cautious clay vanilla be yet. I am Utilitarian. The cautious clay is Whitesinger. Vanilla is my cautious clay be yet. That's my nulla. And my dad is Atkashkai Benale, and I'm Biet. Okay, this is a close-up of, I've been working a lot with different type of artwork. And this is a self-portrait. And in some of my classes, the students have to do a self-portrait. And that's one of the hardest things for we as artists to do. And this one here, it has to do with ledger art. Diné go et o Janila, Diné ebinina, do Janida, Diné. Do Diné, Janida, Diné. Diné. This one I did back in I did this in 1973, and I found this in a lot of my work, and I decided to do a picture of it. It's just a little poem that I put together, and some of the works that I've done. That's, and I guess it's going to be recorded, so you can stop and check it out. So what's going on? Okay, the use of line and color are essential. The use of elements of art. Art is essential to me. I need to sleep and think art at all times. I like the notion of explaining a piece of art. It conveys an insight about myself, this mystic notion of not explaining. And then again, this is lines, having to do with lines. Lines again after a rainstorm. This is my mother and my aunt. It's my mother on the left with the red. My aunt, Maya. And this is my dad taking a Thunderbird in his younger days. This is my Nale, Kashif Kobiya, and his son Yaja, Kopahe and Kuatlini. And this is a collage that I put together. That's my Che. And that's him here, right here. And this is my mother when she was a little girl. This is kind of a work I did like in the 80s. And this is one I did in the Art Institute in Santa Fe when I was there. I did a lot of landscape. This was when I was married in the White Mountain Apache tribe. And I do a lot of the canyon, have to do with a lot of colors. As far as colors tend to make your paintings. And I did a lot of work with complementary color schemes, orange and blue. This is Fritz Shoulders. Fritz Shoulders is an abstract contemporary artist, well known from Scottsdale. This is Lewis Ballard, Native American poser. And this is the Diné College. This is the old cafeteria. I was a student there in 74. And Robert Rauschenberg, American mainstream artist. This was taken in Washington, D.C. This is a dust storm in Chinle that I had done with watercolor. And again, the canyon, kind of like Say It overlook. And this is Spider Rock. That was in my studio. And the Yeviche dance, they didn't have any this past winter, but I heard there was a couple of them going on, different areas. This is the canyon again, Kennedy Shade. Manuelito's son, artwork Apache Crown Dancers. Into the Pavement Blues. I went to a concert, and that's when I came back, Native American concert. This is Stencil Art. that I had done in Manuelito, and you can see money over here on the side. When they were in Huelda, they had a ceremony, and he was part of that ceremony. This is a close-up. It's Manuelito's son. It's a close-up. I call this one Tupashishchinen. And you can see the four sacred mountains down here, buttes, kind of like. I got into techniques, working with different techniques. Abstract. And this is a linoleum block print over a flag. This is the flag I put together. Abstract landscape. This one I'm still working on here. And a couple figures, and you can see another figure in the background. Again, at Tupashishchinen. And I did this after I did a painting of COVID-19. I pray for your well-being. I call that one. That's the linoleum block that I used. Same thing, Kennedy Say spokesperson. This is Barboncito. And I use this a lot in my classes, this whole setup, how is the college paradigm. Harrison Begay, he's a well-known traditional artist. This is a show I had in Window Rock. I did a lot of plein air painting of the Spider Rock. Do a study. This is one of the paintings of the Spider Rock. This is interesting. This technique of a positive and negative subtractive technique. And then Canalta. Close up. Piece on the res. Abstract, a spider rock. The end of the canyon. And these are these are my works here. A little bit of country tang in a one-horse town. And this one I just kind of completed these ones that are in the year 2022. I just completed those. There's a couple of pieces that are in there. You know, the pavement blues and this Navajo Stetson hat. This is complimentary, a painting. This is my grandma here, my dad's flag. This is of the COVID, where people barely making it, getting COVID, getting the virus and whatnot. This one I just also did this past month. And this is achromatic, black and white, kind of like a anime feel to it. Blues. This one I had just done too this past month. And you can see Spider Rock here in the background as far as the buttes. And this is Spider Rock itself. And this one I call it defund the BIA police in 1930s. Indian police. It's a close-up of this one here. And I do a lot of these here as far as this optical illusion type thing. This is the horse colors. And again, this the rattle, abstract. This is a linoleum, not a linoleum, but a printmaking process. This is a poster that I have. Landscape. I did a lot of these landscapes. And you got to have art. That's the last of it. Okay, I think, yeah. Any questions? Sorry about that.
All right, students, do you guys have any questions about Native American art?
You should be able to unmute yourselves now if you want to ask a question yourself on voice.
Sorry about taking so long. I didn't
It's okay.
realize.
Or you can ask it in the chat.
I didn't have a question, but I really loved your use of color in your paintings. I just think that that really helps with getting that emotion across, and I could really see you in your work. It was awesome. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's good to hear. Does anybody know the difference between these? What is this one here? What is this one? Which is a male and which is a female?
The idol's kid.
The one on the right is the male and the one on the left is female.
This one is, which one? Was this
Oh.
my left?
No, sorry. The
This
one
one
you,
here?
that one is the male, yeah.
Okay, yes.
And
this
the,
is,
the one on your right is the female.
yes. I just wanted to make sure you guys know the difference. You guys are taking Amelia Black's class. Because you'll get to that point where they'll ask for something from you when you start getting involved with the certain ceremonies and stuff.
Any more questions? Students. The idol's kiddish. No, I think kid bed the horse, aren't it? Ask questions or make comments.
I have a question.
Okay.
Who are your favorite artists that you get ideas from?
Oh my goodness. Oh, Banksy. Have you heard of him? He's a street artist. He does a lot of social injustice things as far as an international artists, but as far as a native artist, Oscar Howe, Fritz Shoulders, Jim Morrison. He's a Chippewa artist. He taught at Rhode Island School of Design. And as far as Navajo artists, R.C. Gorman, as far as who he is and what he's done for Navajo people. And Bahi Whitethorn's son, his name is Buddy Whitethorn, Bahi Whitethorn Jr. He passed away. He was just young. He was like 24. I really liked his work. A lot of young artists coming up. Shanta Begay is another one.
Mhm.
Thank you for that question.
Any more questions? We have 3 minutes. I guess I have one question, Don. What kind of advice would you give an inspiring artist?
Keep doing it. keep doing it, keep doing art. It takes a lot of practice. I mean, even this lecture that I did, this talk, I had to sit there and wonder what I'm going to say. And I just, anyway, just keep doing it and study with somebody, because what I've noticed is art patrons, they buy your work, they want to know who you studied with or where you studied at. And so in that sense, all the sunlight's getting right in my face.
A question?
Have you ever thrown away any of your art?
Yes, yes, I have. And it's, I don't know how to explain it. I mean, you do get attached to your work, and there's times where you don't get attached to your work, and you don't want to look at it because it's there in front of you, and you need to rework it. So you end up putting gesso over it, painting white over it, so you can rework it.
Okay. I did that recently, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't have done that, just looking at your work.
Yeah, it's well, what do you do? Just buy gesso, paint white over it instead of destroying it and put it in a dumpster. It's probably hanging up in somebody's place.
Good one. Anybody else?
Is anybody taking art classes?
I want to, but I haven't.
You should take like drawing one or basic design or something. So you'll have a feel for it. Because we're all artists, you know. I mean, it's just that some of us happen to know we are, and and also that oral tradition that we have to make up visuals as they tell us things. As far as being being from the Navajo Res, or just being in the city, also, when people tell you stories, you have to picture it. So.
Have you worked in any other types of mediums other than painting? Or
Yes,
drawing?
I've taught ceramics, I've taught sculpting, printmaking, silk screen. Oh, I worked with a lot of different mediums also. And someone was telling me that I should get Photoshop in Adobe Illustrator and learn how to use it, because I take a lot of photographs also, but I don't want to. I'd rather just use the raw image itself instead of trying to make it better.
Anybody else?
I have something to say. It's not a question, but I noticed that in a lot of your paintings, you use the colors that interpret the four sacred mountains, and I
Yes.
really enjoyed that.
Thank you. Yes, it's when you think of that, a lot of yellow and a lot of blue. As far as when you think of blue, and blue being straight across on the color wheel, which is orange, those two colors are called complementary, and they tend to work in a lot of your artwork. And then in the meantime, you throw in all these other colors that you work with. You know, like you were saying, the four sacred colors. And I always say that black and white is not really a color. It's more of a, white is a tint and black is a shade. So as far as color itself, the theory of color. That's a good question. Thank you. A good observation.
Are the art classes only in person?
No, I'm in the Bachelor's of Fine Arts as far as the traditional painting. And so my upper division in the bachelor's, like 400 and 300 level, we do online courses, and it's more independent. I just give certain things and lecture about certain things. But the one class that I have that I decided to do this year face-to-face was color theory, and which was good. But again, this pandemic, we don't really know what's going on with it. We're trying to avoid it at the same time, but at the same time, it's still around. And I have my mask here, sure. So.
Jonah?
Oh,
That, yeah, I really like the vibrant colors as well, the complementary colors and in your artwork. And it makes, you know how you were saying, like as a healer, you feel like as an artist, you take on that role of a healer. And when you see that color that in your work, it brings that joy, happiness, into your thinking. And so that makes it a really happy, environment, or happy thoughts and relaxing thoughts. So, so in that way, I guess you are a healer. Shahab, any more questions or comments from students? Or you, Manny, you have a question?
No, I just thought all those paintings were really great. I loved all of them. They're all really, just like the colors, and I like the line work. So it's great art, but I'm sure you hear that a lot. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe get something. I don't know how we can put something up into the Navajo language department. We should have something up.
Yeah, something you want. Maybe you could give us some that's for sale, and we'll put it in the hallway.
Yeah, I'll tell Melby to buy it.
Or something like that. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, those big ones are Manuelito and Manuelito's son.
Well, Nathaniel, who's in this group, is I think he's related to Manuelito.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, Nathaniel, are you gonna ask a question or make a comment? Sorry to put you on the spot.
It's okay. But yeah, I really like the way you painted Manuelito and Manuelito's son. And I didn't notice, but like the colors you used were like to represent the 4 directions as well. So I thought that was pretty neat. And my grandma wrote a book about Chief Manuelito and Juanita, which is on the long walk. So it's pretty good.
And your grandma is?
Jennifer Nez Dinetdale. She's a professor.
Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, that's good. I was just reading that book on, I read that book like a couple years back, but there was another book I started reading about Black Mountain, Black Mesa. And so it's pretty interesting. And somebody was supposed to give me another book on beading or something, sacred beading, a braiding, having to do with plants.
Najona? If there are no more questions, I guess we can also post your email address at Diné College, and I don't know if you want us to do your private email address as well, if somebody wants to email you.
Yeah, that'd be fine. I'm all right with it.
So we can definitely do that. Then maybe somebody wants to ask more questions or make comments. So I guess that concludes our evening, Diné Language Night. Thank you so much. And students, you know that what you need to do in writing your paper and turn them in. And I think I have a deadline. So yeah. And that's about it. Good night, guys. How going at?
Oh, go on, Talia.
I'll go in it.
Oh.
I'll go there. Yeah.